And then Home Improvement comes along.
Tim, this is brand new. You've never seen it before.
I didn't audition for it. I mean, they just came in, they said, we want you to start tomorrow.
Well, come here. Give me a hug.
What did you think of the show?
I didn't know anything. They called me and they said, there's this guy, he's a stand-up, he did this show, it won an award. I never heard of him.
That is a man's dishwasher.
Immediately, I loved him.
Tim, I want you now.
Everything that we dealt with in terms of marriage and family and kids, and really, we're just sort of classic, ongoing deals.
It still works today.
It does. He wanted that show to go on forever. And they said, let's do it with dead Jill. And then Tim was like, I don't think we can do that.
I am so glad that I didn't let anybody talk me out of marrying you.
So then he went out and said, oh, I think it's time to end Home Improvement.
We're gonna cover it all. I wanna go back to the beginning because people need to remember, you're a Broadway actress. What truly is in your
Really, from
heart.
theater school, because I went to SMU, and I had very serious theater training. And before I went to New York,
What was it like getting to Broadway?
my first audition was for Arthur Lawrence on Gypsy,
Yep.
and I didn't know what I was doing. And I was auditioning for Louise, who doesn't know what she's doing, Louise Gypsy. And so I was a complete idiot and terrified. I mean, it was the whole thing was a disaster. Everything I did, they thought was hilarious. And they were on the floor laughing because I was so nervous and awkward and stupid. And so I got the part.
Isn't that a crazy way to start your career? Like you just show up and you get a Broadway role and it's like one of the biggest Broadway shows of all time?
Well, it's fantastic. And we had the role of the Chinese waitress, you know, the one who notices that she's stealing the silverware. And so I got to do a big double take, and it got me my commercial agents. And by this point, I just had Henry, my first child. And I was so excited about Henry. I actually really kind of changed all my values. Really, when I had my first child, I think I had been invested in my career. And I had Henry. I was so in love with Henry. And by this point in my career, I realized I wasn't going to be Meryl Streep. And I was like, well, you know, this is fine. Do some commercials to keep my, money going. TV stuff started getting covered.
That's what I was gonna say.
And the first one was a Norman Lear show called Double Trouble. It wasn't successful. And I came back, and that's when I did Best Play, the second play I did of hers, the Miss Firecracker contest. And it was so fun.
So what led up to Home Improvement?
I started doing sitcoms.
Yeah.
Every sitcom I do goes to 13 and dies.
Right.
It's like can't catch a break, right? So then I'm thinking about trying to have, and we are talking about, do we really want Henry to be an only child? I don't. So we thought, let's give Henry a brother or sister. So 3 years I try again to get pregnant, finally get pregnant, and it's, oh man, high risk, bad. Things go wrong. I actually have them 3 weeks early. I have 15 pounds worth of babies. They're annoying, they're fine, they're okay, they're a little early, but they're fine. I go through 3 months, I'm so happy, we're both so happy, everybody's so happy. And then Home Improvement comes along. And I didn't audition for it. I mean, they just came in, they said, we want you to start tomorrow and come in and replace somebody. It turns out to be Frances Fisher, who's now my good friend.
This is the greatest gift you've ever given me.
I gave you 3 children.
Yeah, but none of them came out this clean.
What did you think of the show?
I didn't know anything. They called me and they said, there's this guy, he's a stand-up, he did this show, it won an award on Showtime. I never heard of him. Oh, great, another sitcom around a family, it's gonna fail, whatever. I am not. They had me under contract at Disney, didn't want to do any more sitcoms. And I certainly didn't want to be a thankless mom. I'd never done a thankless mom part, and I didn't want to do another sitcom because those are so hard. And so I'd been signed to do a half-hour dramedy done by Carol Black and Neil Marlin, the people that did Wonder Years. One day they just call me and they say, we've decided to cancel Home Movies. That was going to be the name of it. But we want you tomorrow to start in this other show called Home Improvement. I'm like, what?
Hey, would you, one time, just think. Hold on to me, sister.
No. I said, I don't want to do a sitcom. And it's to play a mother. I don't want to play a mother. That one, no. This one was going to be okay because it was going to, it was kind of unusual. And they said, well, if you do this one, if it doesn't get picked up in May, we'll let you out of contract right then.
So you were really just doing this. You were like, okay, I'll do this one run.
I did it for the money and to get out. Totally. They said, we will pay you another pilot fee and we'll let you out in May if it doesn't go. If it, if you don't do it, otherwise, then we're canceling the show and we'll just hold you till December. You want to groove with me?
So they tell you to get there tomorrow.
They said, well, we'll send you a script, and you look at the script, and we'll send you a tape of this guy, this comic, of what he did when he got the Ace Award. So they sent me the script, and Ray and I had a thing that Ray and I had both done so many sitcoms by now. Ray had done a bunch, I'd done a bunch. We have a one-page test, and it's really pretty dependable on sitcoms. You just open the script anywhere, on any page, and if they're just going for jokes, you can tell right away on one page. If they're telling a story and they're developing characters, you can tell that on one page as well. We open up the page, we look at the one page, and we go, oh, they're developing characters and telling a story. So we went, well, that's okay, they passed the one-page test. So then the two of us, we read the script, and it was like, this is a really good script. And I found out that the writers were the originators of Roseanne, which was my favorite show.
Wow.
I loved Roseanne. I adored Roseanne. As a wife and mother myself, I loved her honesty. I loved her frankness. I loved how she didn't have to be perfect. I hated the whole concept of the perfect sitcom wife. And I loved that she didn't have to be this little perfect, making American women feel bad about not being perfect.
Did you hear what I said?
So they said, come in and talk to these guys. So I went, okay, I'll come talk to them. So I go in and meet these guys, and they give me this whole line. It's all lies. It's not gonna be the Tim Allen Show. We're not calling it the Tim Allen Show. It's about both people.
It's not about me. It's about you.
We've got to have somebody who challenges him and is as much a feminist as he is a masculinist, and it has to be an equal struggle because he'll seem abusive. If she's not as strong as he is, he's gonna seem abusive, and we need that strength coming from you to fight that.
I'm perfectly happy being married to a man who thinks that PBS is something that women get once a month.
You're in that meeting, you take that and you're like, oh,
Well, this is what I want, yeah. What they told me that was really important and kept in my mind through the entire 8 years of the show, and what I think is crucial to the show, is that their idea of the show, which was, this is why men and women shouldn't live together. The whole concept of the show is this is why men and women really shouldn't live together. But what we're doing with the show is how they can.
There's got to be something in here you can get rid of.
Yeah, but I stayed married to it because of the kids.
when did you realize that you two would have this magical chemistry?
Immediately, I loved him. I mean, I was so happy to work again after a year of not working, and I came in, and it was sad because the kids on the show were terrified. When someone I'd replaced fired people before, it wasn't my first time. And so I knew what it was like to come onto a set where people are scared because someone's been fired. Other people, everybody feels in danger. Rick hadn't worked that much. I mean, Rick was, you know, an apartment manager, and he had done some rep theater, but not a lot. Of course, Tim hadn't worked at all. I mean, not much as an actor anyway. And so it was really just me and Earl who were really experienced actors. Jonathan, I think, had worked more as a kid than the other kids. Everybody's really off. Everybody's just like, because they were one day away from when they were supposed to tape the show. I'd come in on a Thursday, Friday was supposed to be the taping day. And now, overnight, they've heard, no, that's not what's happening now. We're now taping Tuesday, there's a new person. So everybody's just like, Tim, bless his heart, is very disappointed not to be kissing the very beautiful Frances Fisher and hanging out with Clint Eastwood anymore. And now he has big old lactating Pat come in. So this was not his dream.
I just read the survey and said that some couples, no matter how busy they are, still make love 5 times a week.
With each other?
I was nursing twins. I had to make a half gallon of milk a day. So I'm like 150 pounds or something. I was not intending to work this soon. So that was like that for a while. And what was great was that the producers were like, I was like, I don't have any time to lose the weight. I don't want to work. They was like, we don't care. You just look wherever you like. We don't care. You look real. We don't care.
That's the thing. You came to play a real woman.
And that's what I
you'll tell
wanted
us.
to
Right.
do. And then, of course, the tabloids turned that into, this was my first experience with tabloids. Oh man, did I have an education there. I thought, you know, just being a normal person, seeing them in the grocery store, I used to think, well, there must be smoke, at least, behind these stories, right? I mean, they
Right.
must have something, and they're coming off of something. They just make everything up. They come from nowhere. I mean, they said, for instance, about that the producers made me keep the weight on. I was like, how are they making me keep weight on? Do they come to my house and force feed me?
They're like, don't eat. We're gonna
No,
double
I
down.
don't think so. I don't have time to lose the weight. I don't have time to work out. When am I gonna work out? I don't have time to work out.
When do you realize that this show you're doing, you have a bona fide hit on your hands?
The first time, I really thought I was gonna be able to do this show, get my money, get out, and be with my babies, and that was what I wanted. So we do the pilot.
You don't even look at me like that.
I would if you were 2 speeds in reversible.
The night of the pilot, I'm not exaggerating, we had to wait as long as 13 seconds for them to stop laughing before we could say the next line. I'm like, and what's going on in my mind is, boy, how much do they pay these people to come here and laugh like this? This is ridiculous. This is the most ridiculous audience I have ever heard.
I'm so sorry, the grunting hairy ape model was sold out. Just rinse the dish.
I almost wanted to turn around and go, okay, guys, really, this is too much. Back it off. You know, but I mean, and then I would say a line, another 11, 13 seconds would go by. I mean, it was like, holy moly here. Come on, calm down, guys. So it was unbelievable. But I mean, I was this huge success that night. So I go back to the dressing room, my husband's up there. And I walk in the dressing room and he goes, well, welcome to the show you're going to be doing for the next 7 years. And I'm hearing you're getting the spot next to Roseanne. So then I didn't know how to react because that was not really, I mean, yeah, you want a hit show. And we were really worried about how we were going to send 3 kids to college.
What is it about Jill Taylor that people love so much?
What did the moron have for breakfast?
Today you had cereal and an English muffin.
This was the woman that you want to be.
The primary thing I saw the most in the mail was, are you looking through our windows? Mm-hmm. The things you and Tim fight about are just like our family. It was very gratifying to me because Tim and I worked so hard, and so did John Pasquin, who was our first director and who based everything we did on behavior. Sometimes when you look, it makes me feel less appealing, you know, like I lost a little something.
Lost anything? You've gained.
And was vigilant about this being about the story, about the behavior. What do the characters want? What do the characters need? What are they looking for? We lost all 3 of our original writers after the first 2 years.
And it changed the dynamic for you, didn't it?
It was very difficult.
But for you, and after those first couple of seasons now, Jill's not
And
being
what-
the equal
and
partner.
What I try to always give these original writers credit for, which they really deserve. They taught all the other writers in the writing room about story, that story has to reign. If you don't keep an original writer on the whole 8 years, it's a huge problem. There's nobody but the original writers who really cares about it the way the original writers do. And the other ones come in and it's a good gig, it's a hit show, it's a good gig to work on that hit show, but it's not their baby. Eventually I would kind of go like, I don't think that's the way that I would react, and I just don't feel like that's the way I would feel about this.
This one counts. We're keeping score.
I thought you didn't want to keep score.
Oh, is the great big bad bowling man afraid his itty-bitty wife is gonna beat him?
I want to show you something from the show. Because speaking of the first season,
I think those first couple of years in the show were the best we ever did. They've given us such a good time slot, and there's been such good press, and all of my friends and my husband and everybody thinks the show is so terrific. I mean, it's a little hard not to buy into the what everyone's saying, that the show's going to be a big hit.
do you remember this?
To expect success.
I'd already been through too much of that, you know? If you get a hit show, it's not like winning the lottery to have something like Home Improvement, and you'll never will see that again.
The audiences were so massive.
Massive. We had, 33 million people, watching occasionally. We'd have like when we did the cancer show, which by the way was my idea. My son had a big thyroid cancer scare. So the writers come to my house like they would sometimes do at the beginning, so we could talk about ideas for the next year's shows. I said, okay guys, I know this may sound risky, but I had a big thyroid cancer scare this summer with Henry. And I think we could get away with doing the big C. We could do a cancer show because goiter is funny. And thyroid cancer is curable. It doesn't travel. It's something we could warn people about that they could see. I think we could do this, and it could be, you could find a way to make this funny and also warn people, and we could maybe do a semi-serious show and actually get away with doing cancer if we do that. And then they got the Humanitas
Yeah,
Award
it
for
was
it.
a big deal, right.
It ended up being a really big deal, and it was an awesome show. And they wrote a completely different story. I mean, the story had nothing to do with what happened with us, and it was a brilliant thing that they wrote.
And that was one of your highest rated episodes, right?
30-something million people.
Yeah. Why do people still love the show today?
Here's one thing that they did that Last Man Standing does not do, that they did that is really smart and makes it live forever. They would not tie it to anything going on politically at the time. They wouldn't tie it to any current events. They wanted it to always sort of seem eternal. You never knew what was going on in the world that we lived in. The only way that it could be tied to the 90s was our clothes and the hair.
It was subtle, dear, but I did grasp it.
Everything that we dealt with in terms of marriage and family and kids, really, were just sort of classic, ongoing deals, ongoing situations, ongoing things that are going on now. And it
still works today.
It does.
What was it like reuniting with Tim to do Last Man Standing? What was that like?
It was so weird because, he's never really forgiven me for not wanting to do the 9th year. And that was very awkward. They tried to get me to do the 9th year the whole time I was negotiating for the 8th. And I had been saying no that whole time. There's not enough money in the world to do the 9th year. Then they went to Tim and they said, let's do it with dead Jill. And then Tim was like, I don't think we can do that. So then he went out and said, I think it's time to end Home Improvement.
Well, duh.
What was it like when you go back now? Have you guys
So then I
already
go
kissed
back
and
and he
made
still
up?
got his nose out of joint because and it was hurt his feelings because, he was so attached to Tim Taylor. He loved Tim Taylor. He loved being Tim Taylor. He loved Tim Taylor's family. Tim Taylor was this happily married man with his great boys and great life. And so he wanted that show to go on forever. There was one part of him, I think, that just wanted to stay in that marriage and have those kids and be in this fantasy life, and that's why he has Last Man Standing. Because when that ended, he had to have some version of that to keep going on.
Your exchange with Tim on Last Man Standing is very funny, interesting, but revealing at the same time.
Have we met before?
You do look vaguely familiar. It was really fun. The first one was so fun. People would say, your chemistry is still there. I'm like, it is? I don't know. You're not aware of whether you had chemistry or not. I didn't know whether we would still have it or not. I was so nervous because I hadn't done a sitcom in something like 11 or 12 years or more. I don't know. I just hadn't done any sitcom work in years. I'd been doing drama. This reminds me of talking to my husband.
Will you go back this season?
No, I don't think I should. I gotta meet one of my sons for lunch.
I don't think we've met.
Randy.
You look familiar.
Hey,
Yeah, Randy, how's it going?
I want to show you another clip.
Oh, yeah. That's my short hair phase. Everybody hated my short hair. My twins were only 3 months old, and I really wasn't ready to go back to work full time, but I really thought it would just be the pilot, and I could make a bunch of money really fast in 5 days, and then I'd be out of it. And no, I had no idea.
Even then, you were like, I had no clue.
None. I mean, that first year or two of the show was so fun to do the show. And it was so fun to have the twins. And the twins were like the mascot on the set. Everybody was so kind to them. When they were 3, they had to stop coming to the set because they had to go to nursery school. And I was never getting to see Henry very much. And so then I had this thing of not really being able to see my kids anymore. And that started being really hard.
That had to be a lot. Now that you look back, right? You have these grown children who turned out great. You have this amazing, you have grandkids, you have a grandchild.
Well, now I face all the things I did wrong as a parent. And I'm living with that, and my kids are living with that. It was really hard for me to split focus.
There was a lot of heaviness.
I lost my parents. I lost my career because I quit after West Wing. I had teenagers that were now spinning out. I had 3 teenagers all spinning out at once. And then I'd lost my parents, and I felt like lost my sisters, and my relationship broke up. And I was in menopause, and everything hit at once, and I quit. I quit
said
working.
enough.
I got up, believe it or not, I got up to 170 pounds during this time. I was so depressed. I just quit. And then I just had to go through this grief. It was really, I can't even say it's depression. I went to a shrink. I was grieving, seriously grieving.
But now it seems like you've found such a happy place.
I climbed my way out of that. Yeah, but it wasn't easy, and it was hard. And it was hard on my kids, and we all went through a hard time together. It's better now. I have always kind of tried to put them first. That's always been the case. They were first. So the career had to take the back seat because if somebody had to make them first.
The most important job you'll ever have.
Yeah.